Welcome to Containerized Conversations, where we try to containerize our conversation. I'm Jessica Caffarelli.
And I'm Josh Warhurst. Thanks for tuning in as we dive into some of our favorite topics, one containerized thought at a time.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, Josh.
Thank you.
We're doing it again.
Well, it's funny because I think to the listeners, it will feel like no time has passed.
Yeah, but we did take a break. We took a little break.
Yeah, mental reprieve.
We seriously decided whether or not we do this again.
And, it didn't take much of a conversation to.
Yeah, I think we're going to continue this. So we're actually almost on a year, maybe a little bit less, but
yeah,
I think that's pretty good. I think we've done a season of containerized conversations. This is season 2.
Are we going to call it season 2?
Yeah, this is season 2 for sure.
Okay.
Well, we'll end every season on a book club series. How about that?
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so today I had a message from a friend.
Yeah.
And they said that their manager said to them, "Don't freak out, but everybody will be ranked by AI usage by the end of the year." And they also work in software.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I hear this like you're ranked by the amount of AI usage. And I just think it's just like measuring people against other silly metrics, like the amount of lines of code that you've written or how many commits you've done.
I've heard a couple of people from different companies tell me something similar, that they are being judged and ranked based off of like how much they use AI, and they want them using it, not in the opposite direction, not using it, but which actually surprises me because I mean I've been using AI for a few months now. At this point, I have barely touched like lines. I don't even know if I could count how many lines of code I've created myself. But like when I first started this, there was definitely that stigma that like AI writes slop code. If you write with AI, you don't know how to write, right? And so when I first started this, I was like, oh, like I don't know if I should hide this or if I should let people know I'm writing with it, but like the code I'm writing is not slop because obviously I've learned how to write with AI and I don't let it drive. I drive it, right? It really gets down to how you use it, but I thought there was that stigma, but now we're starting to see these companies.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those like pendulums swinging in the opposite directions and it's going to land somewhere in the middle eventually, right?
Yeah.
But first it was like, oh, we got to be like, very cautious about our AI usage because 1, it costs money, and 2, it produces bad stuff, right? That's like a double whammy, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel like, now it's swung to like oh, you better be using AI because if you aren't, like if you're writing it the normal way or the old way, then you're doing work inefficiently. Right.
Did you just look up the framework documentation for Axios? What? How dare you? You better have used AI to ask those questions.
AI better have summarized all that documentation for you.
Who reads framework documentation anymore?
Well, whoever read framework documentation. No, that's, but yeah, like there's been the swing to it where it's like, oh, you better be just like constantly sending prompts to AI to have it go and do stuff, regardless of the quality of those prompts, because you're going to be judged by how much you use it. Right. To me, that seems a little bit silly, but on the other hand, I can see where you want to get people out of the mud.
Well, yeah. And it's interesting because like, if you look at it from like higher up level, right? Like what you said, using AI to generate the code is super expensive, and it almost feels like no one's looking at the cost. But from like a C level and above, as long as you're doing it in a very conscientious way when you're generating this code, you're not just like brain shut off generating code, you can 100%. It's like Jetpacks, right? You are a team of like 3 to 5 people.
Sorry, it's Jetpacks like the JetBrains?
No, it's like strapping a pair of Jetpacks to your back, like you're taking off. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's actually insane because it's very dangerous, and
No, it's like I read somewhere someone said something along the lines of AI is either strapping a jetpack onto your back or strapping cement shoes onto your feet. And depending on how you use it, it will accentuate either the goodness or the badness in how you write code.
Mm.
And you have to be really careful because it can 100% accentuate your bad habits and make your bad habits 10 times worse. And so it's like strapping on a pair of cement shoes as you're trying to run, right? Versus if you use it the right way, it's like strapping on a jetpack and you're just blast off into space.
But that is why I think it's also a bad thing to judge people by the amount of AI that they use. Because I
Yeah.
think we talk about like how, yeah, we've been doing this for 10 years. We've written code the manual way for, our entire career. And now we're switching to writing it a slightly different way, augmenting it and thinking about it differently. There are like junior programmers who probably should be writing it the manual way, right? Who like their AI usage might be using it wrong. Now, I don't know. It's a skill, right? So at some point they have to learn it, but I'm not
Dude,
sure that I've seen.
I say this over and over again. I don't know how you're a junior in this day and age. Like, I actually used to say this like 3 or 4 years ago when, like, I feel like our industry in tech has built like complexity on complexity on complexity, right? And I feel like 15, 20 years ago, like, you just needed to know the basics and then you could learn the rest on the job. But in today's age, we have like not just Node.js and you need to know that, but you actually need to know like frameworks. And depending on where you work, specific frameworks. And those frameworks could take years to learn. And then on top of it, it's running on Kubernetes, which is like the basic idea of Linux and C and like containers. And then you're adding the extra complexity of virtual networks on top of it, which is then adding orchestration on top of it, which is adding like, so it's like these layers and layers of complexity. And then now you're a junior. And like I said, I said this like 4 or 5 years ago. You're a junior coming in. You're expected to kind of know, how do you figure out this stuff without learning the basics first? Because they don't teach you in school. You learn how to add 2 plus 2 before you have to do multiplication, before you have to do like XY balancing, before you have to learn physics, right? You learn the basic building blocks. You don't get that in tech. Like, you just have to learn. You come out of college and you have to learn physics without even knowing arithmetic.
Well,
And
you like to
it's
get
even
a
worse
job
now.
too, right? Because I feel like maybe 10 years or 5 years ago, right? You could pretty easily get a job and not know too much, and they would
Yeah.
throw you on like a basic task because they're like, in 2 years, this person is going to be cheap labor for their skill, right? Right now, they're kind of expensive for being able to do nothing, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, give them a couple of years, and we have the money. The money's flowing, so just like
Yeah.
get a bunch of juniors.
Yeah.
Now the purse strings are a little bit tighter,
Yeah.
right? And so they're like, okay, we're only going to be hiring, the staff level engineer who has, 30 years of Kubernetes experience,
Yeah.
45 years of Linux and and
Yeah.
and knew Einstein personally and had lunch with him half a dozen times, right? Like
Yeah.
the
but
requirements now, they're
but
like,
we're
we
gonna
just want
hire him as a senior because
right.
he doesn't know
We
our
can't actually afford
systems.
the staff.
So he's a staff level, but we'll hire him as a senior.
Yeah. And they're like not hiring juniors. And so I do think that it's kind of tough. And I'm not sure how you get out of that rut other than maybe teaching people how to use AI early on. But I don't know, like the abstraction is also important, right? Sometimes
Well,
like
the
we don't need to understand what's going on the hood to drive a car, right? Even though it helps repair it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I don't. Well, think about interviewing too. How do you interview people now? You know, like if your job, if you use code generation as part of your job, do you still ask interview questions where you have them write code in like CodePen? I don't know.
I don't know if that was ever a good way to judge people,
I arguably yes, but
you know.
even more so. I feel like it's even more accentuated now.
Yeah, I do think though that you can ask a question. I mean, I guess this gets to like how you're using AI, right? But you can kind of like a Google search. right? You can actually learn a lot about somebody by how they try to Google an answer to a question,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you say, okay, what's the square footage of, I don't know, some obscure building, right? You can kind of have people go and quickly Google that, and based on their Google searches, you can say, oh, that person's actually pretty Google
Yeah,
searching.
yeah.
And the same is true with AI, right? Yeah, you can't maybe set up all the automation in an interview, but you can walk through how you would talk to AI, right?
Yeah.
The tools you would use maybe to make this whole thing work.
But AI costs money to use, especially like if you want to use it from VS Code or something, right?
Yeah, I mean the question is like, does it
So,
cost enough that we're hiring 2 developers or 1 developer in AI? I mean, I think right now AI is expensive, but like developers are also pretty expensive.
yeah. Well, and that's a thing. So now you have to set up some sort of environment where they have access to your like enterprise billing for Anthropic or something, right? Like how do you like how do you set that up? That's a whole different interview process that no one's even talking about right now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm not having to think about that too much.
Yeah, these are the things I have to think about. It's hard. It's painful because that's the thing. It's like our job is hiring right now,
Hmm.
and it's how do you if you know you're going to be generating code, it's so hard for me to be like, yeah, let's ask them coding questions, knowing that like half the time they're just going to be using Claude code to generate. I like you said, I'd rather know how they use Claude to generate code than if they can remember how to use Axios to do calls, API calls to specific downstream APIs, right? I don't know.
Yeah, the interview process, regardless, is just a mess. I think it's always going to be a mess, though, because most people don't really know what they want, and they don't know how to ask, what they want.
Yeah.
But that's why it's an unsolved problem. But maybe AI will
Yeah.
solve it,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll ask
Who
AI,
knows?
actually, how should I interview for this company and for the position we want? And it'll generate the right answer based on all of the inputs that you give it.
And so going back to the what started this whole conversation, which is, we shouldn't be measuring somebody's performance based off of how much they use Claude to generate code. How do you measure performance then? Let's say I'm a C-level that's abstracted away from the organization and I need some sort of KPIs or performance metrics around how people are performing. And I actually, let me take that back a little bit because maybe they're not using that as a way to measure performance. Maybe they're just using it as a way to shoehorn people into using AI, right? Because maybe there's people who are afraid of using AI,
Yeah.
or maybe they don't know if the company wants you to do it. So it's like a really easy way to be like, no, you have to use it. We're measuring how much you're generating code with it, right? It's like as a C-level, it's very easy to direct people based off of the edicts, right?
Yeah, I think that's why they're doing it, right? Is because they're saying, hey, all my friends say that AI is how our company is getting ahead. I noticed that we're not using AI that much and we're not getting ahead. So maybe by forcing people to use AI, we're going to get ahead, right? And
Yeah.
I think there's some truth there. I just think that it's one of these, I think it's actually a vanity metric, right? How much
Mm,
AI you're using is a vanity metric. And like if a C-suite really wanted to look hard at themselves, like why are they not succeeding? I doubt it's
yeah.
because their AI usage. I think it probably has more to do with their hiring practices, their
Yeah.
culture, maybe their product fit, right? There's
Yeah.
there's so many other things that they should be measuring that they're not.
Yeah.
But certainly when you go to investors and you say, "Hey, our AI usage has doubled," and people give you money for that, then you might say, yeah, it doesn't really matter how well we're doing if the investors just gave us twice the amount of money because all of our, engineers are doubling their AI usage.
Well, talk about a callback. Vanity metrics, book club series, measure what matters,
Hey,
right? Because that's that's what that book was all about, right? It's about vanity metrics versus real metrics and how to measure what matters in your organization.
Yep. But some of these things, right? Like they're measuring the stuff that they can't actually get they haven't figured out the actual thing that matters. So they're just doing the second best thing, which is measuring something that they can use to give to their investors to get more money.
Yeah.
And that's legitimate too, right? We live in a business world. We're not living in a world of actual best practices.
Yeah.
But we're living in the world where, this sounds maybe too melancholic or whatever, but at the end of the day, like these are all business decisions, right?
Yeah.
People are making these decisions and they're happening in my friend's company, your friend's company. Yeah. They're happening all over the place because probably there's, money connected to it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, AI is the new hot word. So it's just like anybody gets money if they're in AI. I mean, the title of this podcast is going to have AI in it. It's probably going to be our best performing episode.
We just changed the name of our podcast to AI Containerized AI Conversations.
That's
AI.
That's thinking with AI right there.
That's Galaxy Brain AI,
Yeah. Well, we're going to try to containerize our conversations this season. We're at 20 minutes, so I think I'll end it on there. And that was our containerized conversation. I'm Jesse Caffarelli.
I'm Josh Warhurst. Have a great night.